Montana Television Network. This is the Noon News from Montana's news leader.
Good afternoon, and thanks so much for joining us today. I'm Aja Goare. Our top story this half hour, President Trump addressed world leaders at the United Nations for the first time this morning. He made a declaration of American values and targeted specific threats such as North Korea, global terrorism, and Iran. CBS's Meg Oliver has more.
The world was watching as President Trump made his first address to the United Nations General Assembly.
Welcome to New York.
He delivered tough talk on North Korea, urging world leaders to isolate Kim Jong-un and his expanding nuclear arsenal.
The United States has great strength and patience, but if it is forced to defend itself or its allies, we will have no choice but to totally destroy North Korea. Rocket Man is on a suicide mission for himself.
The president also pressured Iran to stop supporting terrorism.
It has turned a wealthy country with a rich history and culture into an economically depleted rogue state whose chief exports are violence, bloodshed, and chaos.
He issued a strong warning to ISIS and other terrorist groups.
We will stop radical Islamic terrorism because we cannot allow it.
President Trump was elected on the campaign theme America First, but he used his speech in part to ask other nations to come together to confront common threats and dangers.
I will always put America first, just like you, as the leaders of your countries, will always and should always put your countries first.
Mr. Trump has been critical of the United Nations in the past, but he's now pressing for new reforms. Meg Oliver, CBS News, the United Nations.
The UN Secretary General warned UN members this morning that the threat of a nuclear attack is at its highest level since the end of the Cold War. In other news, students in the Flathead Valley are back in class this morning after authorities say the hacker behind a cyber terror attack demanded ransom. The Flathead County Sheriff released the letter to parents in an effort to keep everyone informed. The investigation began when the suspect hacked into the Columbia Falls School District computers last week, resulting in the cancellation of class for 31 schools in the Flathead Valley. Authorities told students and parents at Monday night's meeting the threats are not real, just a tactic to get money. Authorities say the group behind the threats is not located in the U.S. and have made other threats across the country. 2 Dillon High School students are in custody today after they allegedly brought handguns to school. The loaded revolvers were found in backpacks after another student told staff about the guns. The 2 students were arrested, the school was evacuated, and the middle and elementary schools were put on lockdown. Authorities would not say if the students were planning to harm anyone at the school, but added there's no threat to the students. And 2 people are dead and multiple children injured after a head-on crash near Glasgow this morning involving a school bus and a pickup truck. The crash happened around 6:40 a.m. on Highway 2. Montana Highway Patrol says the female driver of the eastbound pickup truck crossed the center line and struck the westbound bus head-on. The speed limit on the 2-lane highway is 70 miles per hour, but speeds of either vehicle are unknown. Both drivers were killed and up to 4 children on the bus hospitalized. MHP believes the female driver may have been fatigued. And a Missoula man is dead and another man injured after a crash in Missoula late last night. It happened at the intersection of Johnson and 13th Streets near Franklin School. Police say the vehicle went off the road, clipped the corner of a house, and went through a small shed. The driver was killed and his passenger injured. That crash is under investigation. The names of the 2 Great Falls police officers involved in the shooting that left a burglary suspect dead last week are now identified. The Cascade County Attorney says Officer Tad Kimmett and Officer Adam Sturgionis were involved in the shooting that left Thomas Addison dead. Police say Thomas Addison was trying to break into a home and ran away when officers arrived. During a foot chase, Addison allegedly brandished a weapon. Addison was then shot and killed by an officer, though it's unclear which of the 2 officers fired the fatal shot. Officer Kimmett was involved in another shooting with a suspect this past April. One Pablo man is dead and another behind bars, charged with murder today. The Lake County Sheriff reports the shooting happened very early Saturday morning at a home on Old Highway 93. Authorities found 34-year-old Johnny McKeever dead from a gunshot wound. They believe 28-year-old Ryan Black pulled the trigger. Black is now being held in the Lake County Jail on a charge of deliberate homicide. A motive has not been released. After months of torture and terror, a Yellowstone County woman is free and her alleged attacker behind bars. 53-year-old Charles R. Lee Green of Molt was arraigned this morning on 26 felony charges, including kidnapping and assault. Investigators determined much of the violence took place last year at Green's shop in Billings. Just a month into the couple's relationship, the victim was tied to a chair and tortured with various tools, including a tack strip and wrench. After her rescue, the victim was diagnosed with a fractured spine, arm, and rib, as well as hearing and vision loss. Her mouth also permanently disfigured. The witness interviewed all told police they never came forward because they were afraid of Green. Still ahead on the noon news, Hurricane Maria moves toward Puerto Rico. We'll take you there for the latest on that big storm. But first, Rob Griggs has our weather forecast. Stay with us.
You're watching MTN News with Aja Goare, Storm Tracker weather with Ed McIntosh, and farm and ranch news from the Northern Egg Network. This is the noon news on Q2, Montana's news leader. Now, here's your Storm Tracker weather forecast with Rob Griggs.
Well, good Tuesday afternoon. We're tracking some weather right now. All kinds of weather going on across the state and in northern Wyoming. Temperatures about 45 degrees over in Butte at this hour, as is the case in Cody, Wyoming. You notice there's a little pocket of clear air here, clear skies moving across north central Montana all the way down to Bozeman, actually. So north central to southwest Montana. It's sort of a reprieve and a break. Our friends in Great Falls getting just a bit of sunshine there at 55 degrees. Over in Helena, there have been a few showers and flurries in the area, 50 degrees right now. Meanwhile, out across the eastern plains, showers and even some thunderstorms being reported. Some of that rain also moving out toward Glendive and Glasgow. Jordan right now at 55 degrees. Williston's at 62. That's Williston, North Dakota, of course. And Glendive sitting at almost 60 degrees. Now, as far as watches and warnings are concerned right now, we have only the one. Think Yellowstone National Park, the northwestern corner of Wyoming. It's the Absaroka mountain range. That weather advisory throughout today. That could be some snow for anywhere from the 7,500 to 8,500 foot range, and that'll continue on throughout the day as that little storm system moves on through. You can see with the satellite radar composite across the Pacific Northwest that eastern Montana and northern Wyoming getting some precipitation being drawn out of southeast Idaho. Meanwhile, up here in northern Idaho, that's where western Montana starting to pick up some of that circulation, all part of a larger system that's moving in. It'll be one right after the next with 1 day of reprieve, and that's going to be tomorrow as it passes from western to eastern Montana. Here's how it looks right now as we move on through the afternoon. This wintry mix continues just to shift and bring cooler temperatures in than we saw yesterday. Meanwhile, the next batch of precipitation and snow and rain gearing up for an entrance into the state, but not until it's pretty windy across portions of southwest and south central Montana tomorrow afternoon. Cooler temperatures move in by Thursday. We'll see some more of those snow showers and rain showers starting from the west, passing to the east, and that particular type of weather is going to stay with us probably well into the weekend. Here's the wind forecast. As you can see later on this evening, those winds start to pick up all the way from western Montana out across the plains. And then tomorrow afternoon proves to be a bit of a windy day. Some of the gusts out here are going to peak up at around 60 miles an hour at times in the upper Yellowstone Valley. The Billings area could see 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. And so some of these areas shaded in the brighter colors represent where some of those strong southwesterlies will come in. Precipitation will be widespread with the exception of our friends across north central Montana. Doesn't look like we'll be picking up too much up in there for Cutbank over toward Havre and even toward the northeast. Snowfall, meanwhile, will be relegated down here to southwestern Montana, northwestern Wyoming in the next couple of days. Here's the forecast picture for today. We're calling for, well, some sunshine popping up out here all the way from Cutbank down toward Bozeman as that shifts across the state. A little bit windy here and there, especially along the gap areas. Temps will be into the 40s and 50s and even into the 60s out across eastern Montana. Tonight, we're looking for skies to clear up in the east. We'll have a few more of those flurries out here in the west. 34 for Kalispell, 35 for Missoula, 41 degrees out there for Miles City. And then as we look at the forecast picture for tomorrow, we see some more sunshine out here in eastern Montana, but the winds are going to be picking up in places like Lewistown, Bozeman, West Yellowstone, also in the Billings area, Livingston. Meanwhile, out here in western Montana, very likely we'll see some more of those 40s and 50s and a few more snow flurries as this weather is going to settle in coming into late Wednesday and Thursday. And that's a look at the weather. Asia?
Thanks, Rob. In other weather-related news, Hurricane Maria is slamming the Caribbean as a powerful Category 5 storm. It made landfall last night on the island of Dominica with 160-mile-per-hour winds. The governor of Puerto Rico is warning people ahead of the hurricane's landfall. This could be the storm of the century. Meanwhile, CBS News confirms reports that the FBI wiretapped former Trump campaign chairman Paul Manafort both before and after the election. The wiretap was under a foreign intelligence warrant in connection with U.S. concerns that Manafort was communicating with Russian operatives who wanted to influence the election. It's unknown if President Trump was recorded as part of the wiretap. Finally, Toys R Us, the largest toy store chain in the U.S., has filed for bankruptcy protection as it struggles with $5 billion in debt. The company says stores worldwide will remain open for the holiday season, but there are reports some underperforming stores could shut down. We'll have your latest ag news next, and still to come, a Montana-made company is sure to put some sparkle in your clean routine. Details when we return.